2024 was a massive year for boxing. The crop of fighters and trainers are of a higher quality than it's been in decades, and the Ring Boxing Awards have just given their picks for the highlights of this monumental year. The awards bestowed were for the male fighter, female fighter, event, fight, trainer, prospect, round, upset, comeback, knockout of the year, and lifetime achievement award. The competition was stiff and almost every category had more than one worthy nominee, so we're going to take a look at all the winners and how they managed to claim this prestigious honor. Let's look at the biggest one first, since it was also the one with the clearest winner. The nominees for Fighter of the Year were Alexander Usyk, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, Diamond Daniel Dubois, Artur Beterbiev, Junto Nakatani, and Oscar Collazo. Bam Rodriguez has accomplished a lot by being the youngest fighter in the pound-for-pound top 10 list. And Artur Beterbiev had two massive fights, closing out the year by becoming the undisputed light heavyweight champion. But Alexander Usyk defeating the final and most feared big contender in the heavyweight division twice in a year, becoming a two-division undisputed champion, is easily the greatest accomplishment of any fighter in decades. Well done to Usyk for winning the Male Fighter of the Year award. The Female Fighter of the Year nominees were Gabriela Fundora, Clarissa Shields, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Michaela Mayer, and Seniesa Estrada. The second undisputed clash for the light welterweight title between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano was one of the greatest clashes we'd seen, which ended in a close controversial win for Katie Taylor. Both women were very deserving of the nomination, as was Clarissa Shields, who had become the unified heavyweight champion, also making her a 4-weight world champion. The 22-year-old Gabriela Fundora, however, had a busier year, defending her IBF flyweight title twice before defeating the unified champion Gabriela Celeste Alanes to become the youngest undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. Winning the Female Fighter of the Year is a massive win for Gabriela Sweet Poison Fundora, who stood among giants this night. The Fight of the Year category would have a very unexpected winner if you'd just looked at the nominees and not seen some of the smaller names fight. Artur Beterbiev vs Dmitry Bivol, Alexander Usyk vs Tyson Fury 1, Serhii Bohachuk vs Virgil Ortiz Jr., Ottobek Kolmatov vs Raymond Ford, Fabio Wardley vs Frazier Clark 1, and Fernando Martinez vs Kazuto Ioka were fights named for the most compelling fights of the year. With the heavyweight and light heavyweight undisputed title fights in contention, on paper it was hard to think of any other fight that would have a chance. While both those fights were masterclasses in skill, the other three fights were packed with skill and ample action. Ford vs Kolmatov was particularly dramatic, as the two of them had been going on an all-out war, with Ford down on 2 of the scorecards by 3 rounds, going into the final round. He managed to dig deep and stop Kolmatov with 8 seconds left in the fight. It was an instant classic and well deserving of the award. The main events and star fighters have not been the only ones to stand out in 2024. There have been stellar undercards, making for multiple exceptional events. The events nominated were Joshua vs Dubois, Crawford vs Madrimov, Joshua vs Ngannou, Inoue vs Neri, Fury vs Usyk 1, and the historic double bill in Tokyo held over 2 days with 7 title fights. The AJ vs Ngannou fight was perhaps the biggest crossover fight with the most explosive ending. It also saw Nick Ball have his rise to stardom against Ray Vargas and Joseph Parker make his comeback against Zhilei Zhang. The Crawford-Madrimov card was another huge contender, with Pitbull Cruz taking his first loss since Tank Davis against Jose Valenzuela, the heavyweight prospect Jared Anderson losing to the behemoth that is Martin Bakole, and a draw between Andy Ruiz vs Jarrell Miller. However, the undisputed clash between Fury and Usyk took the prize, having such incredible fights as Jai Opetaia's rematch against Myris Bradis, where Opetaia claimed the IBF Cruiser belt, and Anthony Kakachi taking the IBF Super Featherweight title from Joe Cordina, a night truly worthy of the award. With regards to trainers getting their flowers, the nominees were Robert Garcia, Rudy Hernandez, Don Charles, Andy Lee, Mark Ramsey, and Bob Santos. Andy Lee did an amazing job rejuvenating Joseph Parker's career with wins over Deontay Wilder and Zhilei Zhang. Don Charles did a magnificent resurrection job as well, bringing Daniel Dubois back to the top with wins over Filip Hrgovic and Anthony Joshua. The one to take the prize, however, was Robert Garcia, who has been guiding the future of the divisions with Jesse Bam Rodriguez, Virgil Ortiz, and Gabriel Murataya. One of the most exciting categories in the awards ceremonies has to be the Prospect of the Year, as it's the one that lets us know who we'll be watching for quite some time. On the shortlist was Abdallah Mason, Moses Itauma, Yoenli Hernandez, Emiliano Vargas, Jean Orubia, and Daniel Pero. Cuban fighters Yoenli Hernandez and Daniel Pero came out of 2024 with 4 and 5 fights respectively, winning all by KO. Colombian 21-year-old John Orobia won all 7 of his bouts for the year with 6 KOs, while 20-year-old Emiliano Vargas won 4 of his bouts with 3 KOs. Abdullah Mason was probably the second most talked about fighter of the year, as the 20-year-old won all 5 of his bouts of 2024 by KO. The winner of the best prospect, however, was 19-year-old heavyweight Moses Itauma, who not only won all 4 bouts of the year by KO, but also won the WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title and defended it successfully twice. He has said that he has his eyes set on the world title before he turns 21, and he may well do it. Having named so many incredible bouts already, the next award was one to hone in on what made some of these awards great. The round of the year was contested between Mason vs Vasquez round 1, Boachuk vs Ortiz round 8, Fury vs Usyk round 9, Kolmatov vs Ford round 12, McKenna vs Laws round 1, and Joshua vs Dubois round 5. Mason Vasquez and McKenna vs Law both had dramatic first rounds, with both fighters going down in both fights. The Kolmatov vs Ford fight and the Joshua vs Dubois nominated rounds both saw dramatic urgent stoppages that sprung fans to their feet as they both brought the fight to a close. Those fights missed out on the award though, as the prestige went to Usyk vs Fury round 9. Not many gave Usyk a chance to win against, let alone hurt the behemoth that is Tyson Fury. Usyk proved the world wrong yet again when he wobbled the Gypsy King and sent him staggering all over the ring. This brought a third and final award to the Ukrainian phenom Alexander Usyk. Toward the closing of the year, I did make a video on the top 4 upsets of the year, 3 of which made it onto this list, and I'm quite proud to say that we did guess the winner, so do check that one out if you want to see more on this. In the running for upset of the year was Leo vs Lopez, Paro vs Matias, Murtazaliev vs Zhu, Suras vs Mungia, Taduran vs Shigioka, and Kafu over Tanaka. Liam Paro showed exceptional skill by ruining the rhythm of Subriel Matias to pick up a unanimous decision victory, while Pumalela Kafu also showed exceptional skill to outwork Kosei Tanaka and get a split decision victory and his first win outside of his country South Africa. Angelo Leo and Pedro Taduran both managed stunning TKO victories to win IBF titles. Zhu vs Murtazaliev was a fairly close one on paper, but Murtazaliev soon took away any doubt about his skill and power by dropping the former champion 4 times and winning by stunning KO in the 3rd round. The biggest upset, however, went to barely known French fighter Bruno Suras, who was barely hanging on against powerful volume puncher Jaime Munguia, when Suras unleashed a powerful punch from the gods to land a massive 6th round KO victory, which got him the upset of the year. One of the toughest things in boxing is bouncing back from a loss. Daniel Dubois, Masamichi Yabachi, Angelo Leo, Billy Dibb, Pedro Taduran, and Nick Ball all showed that they had it in them to do so, and were nominated for Comeback of the Year. Yabachi, Dibb, and Taduran showed massive resilience to regain belts to their name after their losses. Nick Ball was to fight his way back after a heartbreaking and controversial draw in his first world title fight. He had a huge test next, and he passed with flying colours when he defeated Raymond Ford and claimed the WBA featherweight title, and then defended it 4 months later by KOing Ronnie Rios. Daniel Dubois also fought his way back from a controversial loss against the best boxer in the world, Alexander Usyk. He followed the loss up with KO wins over Jarrell Miller, Philip Hergovich, and Anthony Joshua. These, however, did not stand up to the comeback of Billy Dibb, whose career wasn't damaged by a human opponent, but by cancer. He bounced back defeating cancer, then took one more win in the boxing ring before retiring. Big respect to Billy Dibb. The final fighter award was for KO of the year, which includes as nominees a few fighters we've already spoken about in this video. On the list was Dubois over Joshua, Davis over Martin, Bahdi vs Silva, Leo over Lopez, and Suras over Munguia. While Tank had a masterfully timed and well-executed KO, and Lucas Bahdi's 2 lightning-fast swings demolished Ashton Silva, the aggressive throwdown between AJ and Dubois ending in a monstrous and unforeseen dynamite finish was one that will go down in history. The night was topped off by honouring legendary promoter Don King with the Lifetime Achievement Award for putting on some of the biggest shows of all time in an era of greats. I'd love to hear what you guys thought of some of the chosen winners and whether you would have considered anyone else for them. Also, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like on the videos. It helps us tremendously. Until next time.